Let's work together for a healthy marine ecosystem. Tunacons.
Hola, buenos días. Gracias a todos por estar aquí con nosotros, con el equipo de Tunacons.
Thank you everyone for being here with the team of Tunacons. Today we're going to be talking about sustainability initiatives that tuna companies part of Tunacons are promoting and organizing regarding fishery improvement of Tunacons. Tunacons is a group comprised by 5 companies: Nirsa, Hadran Group, Eurofish, Server Group, and Trimaran.
¿Por qué nosotros hacemos este webinar?
Why we're having this webinar? Well, we are going to show all of the work that's been developed to support the construction of sustainable fishing of tropical tuna in the Eastern Pacific. It is a way of communicating and sharing with you everything we're doing with scientific technical analysis, reaching the solutions for technology improvement, training, crew management, improvement of technical practices to reduce the impact of tuna fishing in the EPO. Also, in this first webinar, we're going to show you how, in a general way, how we have improved the Tunacons in these 3 years within an improvement of fisheries. In the other webinars, we're going to keep on talking and asking some consultations, and we're going to show specifically each one of the projects from their technical components so that you can analyze and see in each project, in each action of Tunacons and partners, how all of these projects are being implemented and the actions taken.
Okay. Vamos a hacer algunas consultas que nos gustaría.
We're going to ask some questions that we would like you to answer in a poll on how many of you know about Tunacons. Tunacons has been showing its actions for 3 years so far, and we would like to get to know some answers on your behalf. Do you know how many companies are part of Tunacons? 3, 4, or 5? We're going to give you 30 seconds to answer.
Ok. Muchas gracias por sus respuestas.
Thank you very much for your answers. We're going to continue explaining a little bit of the question that we had before. We have 5 companies that are part of Tunacons. Thank you very much for your answers. We've seen the results. 74% know how many companies are comprised within Tunacons. A little bit about the characteristics of the companies that are part of Tunacons. We have 44 vessels that are part of the project, and out of 250 vessels registered here in the EPO, 44 are those participating on behalf of Tunacons that are part of this fishery improvement project. Regarding fleet catches, out of the 44 vessels, we have actually 21% of the total catches. In the EPO, we're talking about 600,000 tons in between the 3 main species of tropical tuna that we all know. But we would like to ask you now another question in this presentation. What is the species that Tunacon's fleet captures the most? Again, 30 seconds for you to answer.
Ok, muchas gracias. Sí,
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. 82% know that very well. It's a skipjack. That is our highest catches regarding the fleet participating here in Tunacons. And actually talking about this are 3 main species on which we're working regarding main catches in Tunacons, or the skipjack, yellowfin, and big-eyed tunas. In order to explain you a little bit of how the Tunacons project has been working, so that we have been able to comply with the parameters proposed by the Marine Stewardship Council, we're going to show you our trajectory more than 3 years work. In 2015, actually, we signed an agreement. First, we had a dialogue in between the company start of Tunacons with a cooperating partner, which is the WWF, World Wildlife Fund, here in Ecuador. And we signed a memorandum of understanding on the route that the Tunacons companies and the WWF would take for fishery improvement. This took place in October 2015. After this, we carried out our first pre-assessment, fishery pre-assessment in February 2016. We did this through Embrand America, who was there for us. They accompanied us and they prepared the first initial assessment technical sheet. Later on, we had 2 workshops in March 2016 to allow all of the stakeholders, the government, the IATTC, scientists, experts, and to let them know everything that we have found in the pre-assessment of fisheries in the EPO. Afterwards, we carry out a workshop to adopt the project where we actually confirm with all of the stakeholders, and on the fact that this was the project that Tunacons had to put in place to improve the fishing of tropical tuna. For January 2017, at the beginning of the Fishery Improvement Project, this actually was the date in which we began with our activities, and from there to 2019, we had 3 FIPs assessments, Fishery Improvement Projects, with Luis Ambrosio, the expert who carried out this analysis on how we made progress in overcoming the difficulties and challenges that we have found, that Amber and America have found to get the MSC certification. And now, by the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, we have actually hired a company to go into full assessment under the MSC scheme. We actually hire MSC as global, working on the pre-assessment fishery assessment, so that by September we will be able to present this. It's a little bit delayed because of the pandemic. It has delayed some work. However, we are still moving on with this process. We're going to talk about the sustainable initiatives that Tunacons has implemented for each one of the principles stated by the MSC. You know, the first one has to deal with the sustainable fish stock situation, the status of the species that are being caught by the fleet, mainly tropical tuna, the main species of tropical tuna. And here I have another question for you. Let's see. What do you think, what do you know about yellowfin and big eye stock status? We wanted to ask you what you think about these options that are being presented to you. Thank you very much. We have seen that there are different opinions. Most of people say there's overfishing of these species. Another part says that there are some issues that have to be fixed with these two species. Well, actually, Tunacons has committed to contribute and collaborate a lot in this point, because we believe that an important objective to sustain long-term fishing is this. And for this effect, Tunacons has signed an agreement since 2018 in order to cooperate and collaborate with the IATTC in all of the aspects having to do with this fleet. The agreement with them was signed in 2018, and it has to do with the cooperation of improvement of assessments of the status of the population of tropical tuna, also to work on the analysis of juvenile fisheries with deepest nets. And a short time ago, actually a month ago, we signed to sharing data of our ShareBox data, actually, going with the FADs, so through a pilot project, so that we can begin an improvement of the assessment of tropical tuna and all of the impact generated in this FADs. This is important for scientists and the Tuna Commission and those part of the advising committee in the IATTC. We also have this MOU with the Commission on the improvement of best practices for catches. In this sense, we have a cooperation agreement for these smaller boats that have no servers now will have of servers, so they will actually provide information for improving these aspects that the IATTC has been working on. Another important aspect where we will be cooperating with the Commission is actually a fleet capacity management plan, and we have promoted this and boosted this so that experts could design a fleet capacity management plan looking for appropriate strategies for the fleet number not to be increased, or for better management of the fleet to reduce the fishing effort in this sense. This is still rope. It's important to say that there is a limit for the fleets, and there are others that haven't gone through that just yet. So in this sense, in principle number 2, we have seen the need of minimizing the environmental impact in the oceans, so developing several activities that personally I think is the most complex challenge, because we need to deal with the industry, the scientists, and everyone involved in advising into reducing the environmental impact in the oceans, and also the need of this impact generating less effects and reducing the negative impact on the environment in ocean ecosystems, which is where tuna lives. So here we have more questions for you. See if you know about this. We have implemented an important project on FADs, on degradable materials, so that we can have a degradable FAD. And I want to know if you know how we call this very important project for Tunacons. We will give you 30 seconds.
Listo, muchas gracias por la
Thank you very much for answering the poll. Most people say your project is called EcoFads. And that's right. We actually have several programs in this second principle, and within this FADs management is called Eco FADs. In these programs that we have different actions. We have monitoring the compliance with the current IATTC resolution about no entangling FADs. This was implemented in 2018, so all FADs have the obligation of having these FADs with grids that prevent bycatch, not or having sensitive species entangled there as sharks race as the fleet in the EPO had, and thanks to Stefe and people from the IATTC and the recommendations, and we also participated as Tunacons in these decisions, and we supported through our delegation in Ecuador together with other delegations for this resolution to be approved, and now the FADs used in the EPO are FADs with nets, grids that do not entangle these species, and we have eliminated this problem in the EPO, Eastern Pacific Ocean. We also have Eco-FADs, which is a very important project where we have carried out a full research with the support of the Commission, the support of university scientists on how to change the FAD, kind of polluting FADs, like with plastic materials and other polluting materials, and how to transform them and get 100% degradable FADs. Also, they take them to other places whenever they want to plant them, and some FADs are just left there, and so that's why we need, in case the FAD is in the sea, we need to find a way to reduce pollution in the oceans. This is a great challenge that we have because 80% of our fishery is carried out by means of FADs, and we're going to go deeper on FADs, on the work we're carrying out with FADs. The other great aspect of our work as Tunacons is how to reduce bycatch, especially in sensitive species. Apparently, it is a very important work that's carried out because of the closeness we need to have with the crew, with captains, showing them the techniques recommended by experts in the tuna commissions, other organizations such as ASTI, ADSUSEP. We have participated with them, we have seen their job, and we apply that in Tunacons so that we can put all of these solutions here, because this means reducing bycatch of sharks that we are talking so much about these days, rays, juveniles as well, who are part of this bycatch, and other bycatch. And we need to work in the change of technologies, fishing techniques and technologies. We need to train better our crews so that through the workshops that we go to every year with the support of the tuna commissions and other experts and tuna council, that we can show them how to make these changes to help reduce this impact. I believe this work is one of the most important aspects because we see the world's concern on how to reduce the impact of fisheries regarding rays, turtles, tortoises, and sharks. And we believe this work being done will help solve these problems, and we will see some further examples later on this work. Another aspects we're working on is race tagging. We do this by means of an international organization. We're going to show you that later on. And another important element is onboard observers in those boats of less than a class 6. It was a challenge to put this program together following the standards of the Commission to follow and monitor these boats that had no observers before, but now they have them, and we have boats that are not class 6 but below class 6 boats with observers. Later we're going to see what we have accomplished as well. And here we're going to name it. In the case of Tunacons, we have our own action plan for FADs having to do with the regulations approved in the Tuna Commission and nationwide at Ecuador's level and Panama in the US, as our vessels have those flags. But additionally, we have two important actions that we want to highlight, and it has to do with the collection of FADs. We have a project that we have given in the Galapagos National Park to collect sea trash within this, the collection of some FADs that might get to the sensitive areas of the marine reserve of Galapagos to have them collected and prevent these FADs to reach sensitive areas. In the agreement we are stating with Galapagos, we are planning further actions. One of The most important problems here is trash not only generated by deep sea fishing, but also by tourism activities and other activities in the Galapagos. NACOMS wants to commit to collecting this trash and generating actions together with the National Galapagos Park, and the WWF has been looking over at these projects. We have designed this, and now in the following weeks, the Galapagos National Park will see if they get it so that we can better take care of this marine reserve, which is of great importance for the whole world. Another important action within our action plans of Tunacons FIPs is the commitment of the 5 companies to replacing 20% of traditional FADs with those eco FADs. After 3-year research, decided that it is important to have an important change in this that we have been working on for 3 years, and we've had lots of research with very good results, and we believe it allows us to get committed into carrying out this changing of traditional FADs to those 100% degradable FADs in Ecuador. Another important action is that Ecuador has generated the Ecuador's FADs action plan. It was promoted by Tunacons with the stakeholders, the government, the other guilds, so that Ecuador can also have an FADs management plan, probably not with all of these additional Tunacons activities, but within the framework of a way of better organizing FADs as a country in relation with everything that's approved by the IATTC. Or probable solutions as the ones Tunacoms is working on to incorporate them in a national plan. So all of Ecuador's fleet would be committed with this national action plan led by the Ministry of Fisheries and Production in Ecuador. Regarding what we were talking about FADs, you're going to see some images of what we're doing. We're going to have a webinar specifically for EcoFads, and later on we're going to have some questions to see if you would like us to show this in depth. We actually have 2 important actions within the Eco FADs activities. First, developing an FAD prototype that's 100% degradable. We have been carrying out some testings like to see what material is 100% degradable, and based on these trials and the duration of FADs, we have been looking on how to improve the resistance of the FADs. Here we actually see the work being carried out with the University of the North in the faculty textile faculty, applying different materials to cover the fabric so that it increases the resistance, the duration of these FADs, because based on the conversations that we've had with the fleet captains, they would like an FAD that would at least last in between 10 to 12 months so that they can carry out their activities. As you can see in the images below, we have a project with the IATTC with the funds of the European Union, who we thank for the support in this project. We do not only have Tunacons, we have Papagar. We're based on prototypes, looking at the results of the work of Tunacons are being implemented already at sea. We have around 700 FADs that are being tested. So in the next 6 to 8 months, we will have results, and we will be assessing how these prototypes works. One of the uncertainties we had, especially for the captains, the crews, well, you know, changing their way of working because they have developed that for several years, and it's difficult to get involved in change to actually be able to show that these new FATs also collect tuna and in the same way of traditional FADs, so they can carry out their fishing work without affecting their work, but with a material that will reduce the environmental impact. So this is important work, in my opinion. I'm a fan of all of positive changes, and I believe this is something that we have implemented with tuna accounts, and we are going to comply with all of the other objectives of the project as well. Now we have another question for you. What percentage of bycatch you think exists in the tuna purseine fishery? 30 seconds to answer.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. 49% of people estimate that there is 5% of bycatch of the tuna purseine fishery. Actually, according to the estimates carried out through by SCCF and the Commission, having the information, this bycatch does not even go up above 2%. This is the data we have so far. It is one of the fleets with the lowest bycatch in the world, probably. And this doesn't mean that we're not concerned about working towards reducing even more this bycatch so that we can improve the work conditions of the fleet. I'm very sorry, the panelist has his microphone in mute. Sorry, I was muted. Well, actually about bycatch, the first work we carried out was develop a code of conduct, and in another webinar we can go deeper in this, but this code of conduct for all 5 companies is based on reducing the environmental impact of FADs, changing traditional to eco FADs, and then working on management measures to reduce the impacts determined by through scientific methods. Also in this code of conduct, we have worked on reduction of bycatch of sensitive species that, as you know, is very important. And we also have our own information. We have a sheet, a template for data collection. We take all of this information, we show this to the fishermen, and we show this to them so that we can have follow-up on the reduction of bycatch. We take sharks, living sharks, back into the sea, which are bycatch, and there are regulations on this topic. So this code of conduct is related to this template, to the use of this template, which is mandatory for the fleet because it generates data and allows us to have follow-up and see how our work is actually being carried out. We also have training workshops. You see, whenever we have closure of fishing, we carry out training with the collaboration of the IATTC, but mainly between Tunacons and IATTC, to show techniques or changes in technology to reduce bycatch. As you can see, they are always very attentive. They participate a lot. And so you can see here a video of how they are actually working with methodologies to take back tortoise in this case. Same thing is with sharks. You can actually see our work because we've created a program called Crew to the Rescue, Tripulantes al Rescate, where we can get videos of the work they are doing to see if they are applying the techniques well. And so we promote through their good work as motivation incentives to the fishermen so that they can actually feel good that not only by fishing but by taking care of the environment. This change of mentality, change of mindset of the crew is very satisfying as well because it gives us positive results. We have materials designed for this. We have that in the vessels and we have the videos, and this is part of the training promoted with our staff. In the case of this year, due to all of the conditions we have, due to the pandemic, our next workshop is going to take place through Zoom as well, but we are not going to stop training them, to talk to them, to show them all the new things that have come out, show them the statistics of their own work. This is ongoing work, and we can actually talk about about this in a new webinar and listen to them and their opinion in these trainings. We carry out a follow-up of the technologies to see how juvenile tuna is doing. There's important work on behalf of other organizations, ISOC, SIGLING, the IATTC, on a follow-up on how to look for alternative methods that will work well to reduce bycatch of juvenile tuna. Even though in the assessment of the population is taking into account this part of the population, we believe this reducing the catch of juveniles is important to generate less impact of the tuna population and having a good stock of healthy tropical tuna. Moreover, we have workshops, technical reviews with the IATTC with Dr. Martin Hall and scientists. He has been helping us for a long time with Marlon and John as they help us review how this grid is working. This is an experiment that Ecuador proposed. This is being used in the Ecuadorian fleet to see the reduction of bycatch of juveniles and the reduction of other bycatch, other fish that are not part of the business to release them into the wild. But this has worked well. We need to keep improving on other things, but out of this work, we can have also a nice webinar with the support of the IATTC with our technical team to show the results of the sorting grid for accompanied fishing. A nice project that we have on which we are collaborating with the Monterey Bay Aquarium and with Manta Trust, which are two organizations with interesting projects that are implemented here in the EPO of tagging rays. We also have techniques for rays release, and we are helping through the observers programs of Tunacons and the other observers program of Ecuador and for class 6 and above vessels. And the idea is to get to know if all of this work that the crew is carrying out to release this race, how long they survive, because we do not know that. And this actually helps us verify the mortality of rays once they are released alive. This is good work, good results, and we're going to have a webinar together with Mented Trust and the Monterey Bay Aquarium with the Tunacons team to show the results of this very important work. And in our Board of Observers program, which is a program for vessels below class 6, and before they didn't have monitoring, they only had logs. Before, and the idea was standardizing the same way of controlling and monitoring what's happening in these vessels, smaller vessels. So this is under the technical standards of the Tuna Commission, also the National Institute of Fisheries of Ecuador, where we have built up work teams for this program, so that from training with the staff from the IATTC, their coordinator, Pedro Esteban, and so that they can carry out all of the reports. The IATTC will have the reports on bycatch, on fisheries of target fishing, going over all of the assessments they carry out and they present to the commission, which have actually covered as comes the total of the fleet. We have 100% coverage, and this generates relevant information for everyone. Another question for you, specifically about sharks on the measures to release sharks back. Do you think it's too dangerous, if it's needed, if it's risky, or if it's mandatory? Is this activity is mandatory? What do you think about a live release of sharks?
Ok, muchas gracias por su respuesta. El
Thank you very much for your answer. 64% thinks it should be a mandatory activity. And actually, in the case of sharks, there are regulations that the Tuna Commission has stated, and it's being implemented in Tunacons, and all of the fleets of the EPO have to implement it. In the case of Tunacons, we carry out a closer follow-up of training, technical assistance, monitoring for these measures to be complied with, so that we can release living sharks back into the species. Thank you, into the sea. Thank you very much for your answers. Now we're going to be talking about principle number 3, the effective fisheries management, the effectiveness of fisheries management. And now the first question we want to have here is, do you think if there are conservation measures for FADs in the EPO? Yes or no?
81%. Muchas gracias.
81%. Thank you very much for your answers. 81% said yes, there were FADs management measures, and yes, they are. Actually, they are. There are full measures for conservation that our fleet has to comply with. Firstly, related to complying with 72 days of fishing closure in the EPO during 2 stages determined in Resolution 1702. It is the only commission, and it's important to say this. This is the only commission, or the only part of the oceans applying a full closure for the fleet during 72 days. No other organization does that, even though we have requested this. The main idea would be for all of the organizations to stop for 72 days as the EPO does, because this is a measure that obviously has greater efficiency to reduce fishing efforts in tuna fish. So this is a measure we're complying with. Additionally, we have a corralito, a special area where we stated that there were lots of juveniles, big-eyed juvenile. This is an area that is closed during 30 days. No fleet can fish in there in the EPO. And we also have FAD management measures. There's a limit of FADs per vessel. This has been in place for 2 years so far. And we also have the prohibition of placing FADs 15 days before the closure. We also have the obligation of taking these FADs 15 days before closure. So you will need to collect all of them where the vessels have actually carried out their launchings. And so this is carried out 2 weeks before the closure. This is an effort and it's being adopted by the IATDC. We have a regulation on silky shark, which is the live release once they come into the vessels. So it, we are doing everything possible to take care of this shark population by releasing them into the wild alive. We're complying with these, carrying out with all of the measures. This is part of the trainings of the crew, the regulations and techniques to release them. And in the new webinar, we're going to show you all of the technical work we carried out with sharks, with tortoises, rays, and other species as well. Same things in the case of tortoises, releasing tortoises back alive. It's an obligation in our fleets and also in all of the trainings. We implement all of the needed mechanisms so that they can release them. And also we have a fleet capacity limit regulation. This is also another example. In 2000, we have a closed fishing record, and it cannot be increased. And with the difference of other oceans, other areas where we still see an increase of the capacity, which is growing. And this is also of concern because the IATTC has a close record for this, has a limit. So this helps us go over the fleet capacity with the Tuna Commission, hopefully this year, if possible, or from next year on. We hope to adopt this fleet capacity management plan to look to reduce this fleet capacity with intelligent, smart strategies that will not affect the production. But we are aware that the fleet capacity will somehow have a better management. Another important action promoted here in Ecuador is that we need to have a national action plan for Ecuador tuna fishery, not only for first seine, we also have for tuna fishery, Tunacons work with this. The government supported that, led this, and they took a ministerial agreement talking about a national shark plan agreement, 184, approved last year by the legal secretary, Mr. Alejandro Moya, which was the Deputy Secretary of Fishing Resources, looking to have all of the fleet, all of the stakeholders through the national government generate actions for the sustainability of tuna fishery with the work of Tunacom, of the IATDC, of independent researchers and scientists that will recommend to improve the sustainable fishing of tuna. Here you will see all of the main topics of this Ecuadorian plan, we are talking about fishery management, talk about population management measures, monitoring and control, improving monitoring and control systems of the fleet, having a national program for traceability of tuna fishing, that even though we have it, how we can improve it and mechanize it. And so we think this is very important. Moreover, we're talking about reduction of bycatch so that it won't only be Tunacons, but it will be expanded to all of the fleet. Tunacons is willing to carry out a model together with other institutions, international organizations as ICP, and we are helping. The idea is for all of everyone to get committed to better assessing the stock to the stock training to the stock assessments. Moreover, we're talking about crew workshops of this training. They have given us good results and also reducing juvenile catches. All of this work in Tunacons has generated important alliances. We haven't done this alone. We have built alliances with the Ministry of Fishery, the guilds next state, the National Chamber of Fisheries, the school, EPESPO, the IATTC, our great partner, the WWF, the Ocean Conference, IATTC, Fishery Progress, Global Goals Gear Initiative. We are part of them to cooperate and reduce sea trash. So this is a great construction in all of these years of a process of alliances to have good sustainable management of fisheries, and we have built a full communication system so that we can show all the work that we're doing through social networks, through a website, through communication agencies, helping us to better share what Tunacoms is doing to the world. And through these mechanisms, we show all of our progress made, and we give an example of how to build a sustainable management project in this specific case for tuna. Now, a question before we finish is, what topic would you like us to share with you in the next TunaComs webinar? Here we have the options. Please be so kind as to answer them. The last one is about the stock status of tropical tuna. And that's what this last part is about. Thank you very much. Wow. Oh, we have a difficult choice to make, but the one with the greatest importance is on the EcoFADs projects and then good practices for catching and for harvesting and all of the situation that we are involving in the work to do this. We can have some questions here. We can answer questions here. We give you our contact page. We are in constant contact for sharing our job. First question, Mauricio Castrejon. What is the average cost of EcoFAD and the estimated investment to change all of Tunacons fats into EcoFats? The average cost is in between $400 and $450 per FAD transformed. I believe it usually costs less than $200, but the cost to take on degradable FAD is near $400. All of the work we're carrying out is still made by artisans, so handicrafters. So once we have a more industrialized process, the cost will down. Currently, the cost is at $400. It's been a high investment so far made by the company and through the companies and also with the help of the European Union, but we believe that we have set in between $150,000 per year. I understand that the implementation cost of TN tuna is of about 2.2 millions. In what percentage is the implementation of this plan financed? And uh, if not, it's not financed in 100%, what are the potential source financing sources? $2.2 million. This is a plan that's been recently approved by the government. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we stopped the process of implementation. We're taking it back. And one of the main sources is the private sector and cooperation agencies. They are willing, they like this, and they are willing to finance these activities. Actually, some activities are being carried out as well because we have a work done to work on yellowfin, and traceability plans are in place with the EU. And so for this year, I believe in about 3 months, we're going to have an assessment of the actions that are being done in parallel that are part of this plan with the government, who is also going to invest in it, on how the next years will be carried out is a strategy that we will get to in the further years. Has the Code of Birth Practices being assessed independently? Yes, WWF hired an independent contractor for the Code of Good Practices. We can talk about the results once. They were very good results, actually. This Friday, we have a meeting with Tunacons to approve the recommendations of this external auditor on good practices. All of the projects we have, we hire external outside experts so that they can tell us where we have gaps and the new things that we can implement. Michelle Reyes states, I don't know if this was said, but what material would be used in the case of FADs? We're going to have a webinar about this. We have tried different organic materials. We have jute, we have natural materials, the most effective one and the highest duration one, but we have been carried out work to improve on the resistance of the materials with the Technical University of the North, with animal and vegetable fat, with rubber, with fish oil. So we are carrying out trials all over this year on how this material improves on the resistance of the original material used. We have interesting results, but as you ask for this in the next webinar, then the technicians are going to talk about the results of this work so that you can better know our progress. Two questions here. What is this about sharing buoy data with the IATTC? The buoys send information about the biomass where the fish schools get together, and this is going to help the IATTC scientists see how FADs are aggregating these different fish species, the density of the populations, and this will allow us to know the abundance of tropical tuna. This is a pilot project. We're at the very beginning of this. Hopefully in a year, we will, together with the IATTC staff, we will be telling you how we have used this information. You talked about work with segmenting. Can you give us further detail? Well, through segmenting, we have been trying to identify with these teams. It's like differentiating juveniles from mature tuna, also the species. If they have big eye or yellowfin, we have carried out the follow-up of this work. We will go deeper in another webinar. Segmenting, of course, and ISFCF have also carried out this work, and through the workshop, we have this follow-ups. This is a webinar that will be very interesting because through technology, we will be able to differentiate juvenile or mature schools of fish, of tuna. And it is important because we'll have more information on them, but we're at a process of improvement of the measures that the IATTC is carrying out to having healthy stocks is what I talk about VEDA, about corralitos, about closures, corralitos, and they carry out an assessment process on how the three main tuna species, the IATTC staff showed us actually this year a new methodology which is very wide, very in detail, and this goes into the advising committee of this commission with the country's scientists and experts to analyze together how the status of the population is and if the model has the less number of uncertainties to generate information and recommendations of the political level of the Commission. This important work carried out by all of the scientists in the different countries to generate scientific information for the foundations of the government's approvals and the annual meeting of the Commission. Thank you very much for being here, for having a time for this first Tunacon's webinar. This is the first one. We're going to put together the second one, hopefully for September, with different topics of what you've seen in general that we have been building a sustainable management system for tropical tuna, not alone. We have important partners. We have the WWF, Tuna Commissions, the government of Ecuador, other private stakeholders, FT, SFF, all of them coming together and thinking on an everyday basis to build this management system. There's a lot to say, a lot to talk about. Wait for our next webinar. Thank you very much for your time, for being here with us. Thank you very much. Have a great day.